Bang! Boom! I will never retire!
Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
It's me, Austin!
Who are you to doubt El Daniels? Because this guy's a serious professional. Brett screwed Brett.
Yeah! Can he do it? Taylor! Oh, and a kick out! Unbelievable!
Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. And I am the Macho King Savage.
Woo! Such a mouth wearing fatty!
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. You get to build a company, create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline, build pay-per-views, do whatever you want to do in all aspects of pro wrestling with Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs like my good buddy John down in Texas. John, always love to hear from you. Check our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget loyalty rewards. Any $15 a month contributor, you can co-host an episode with me. $7.50 a month, I'll enter you into a drawing to do the same and host a live show with myself. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you'd like us to touch on in a future episode, give me a shout over at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and we'll get to those in a future episode. So, tonight, lots to get into, tons of things going on in the world of wrestling. I'm going to try to keep it somewhat segmented based on company tonight, just for, flow and whatnot. And got to start with the arrival of a former Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Women's Champion, or whatever you want to call her, free agent Deonna Purrazzo, arriving in All Elite Wrestling. Thrilled to see her there. There was teases of a new free agent signing. Many people thought it might have been Mercedes Moné. Conversations between Moné and WWE broke down a few days ago. Word was that she was headed to AEW. And then another report came out saying that she was offered a 5-year, $25 million contract from AEW. No idea if that's been substantiated by anybody yet. But in the meantime, Deonna Purrazzo has arrived. 3-time Knockouts champion, shows up and confronts Maria May, and she won her in-ring debut that night. It was a great time for her, and then she gets her celebration crashed by Purrazzo, who is there essentially to call out Timeless Toni Storm, who she wants to get in the ring with and mix it up with. I love the idea of this feud for being her first one. Toni Storm, one of the hottest commodities in All Elite Wrestling's women's division right now, and I think it's a great place for Deonna Purrazzo to begin her quest towards greatness in AEW. My only concern is, if you look at the remaining members of the women's division, there's, oddly enough, you won't hear me say this too often because of how horribly I think AEW's women's division has been booked at times. They have a lot at the top of the women's roster. Willow Nightingale, Julia Hart, Chris Statlander. Now with Purrazzo, you have Maria May, who recently showed up, Toni Storm, and that's not counting people like Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, who are on the shelf right now with injuries. Saraya, and all this talent that they have right now at the top of the women's division. Can you imagine if they do bring in a Mercedes Moné? But in the meantime, love the arrival of Deonna Purrazzo to All Elite Wrestling, announcing that she is All Elite. What a loss for Impact Wrestling, but what a huge gain for AEW. A talented individual, but it does go to support the theory that AEW is great at picking up the majority of their talent. I get it. There's graphics out there of all the former WWE people that are in AEW, and I agree there are many. But when you have an opportunity for a big signing, I think the ones that they've announced as big signings don't always deliver on the hype, only because I don't think mainstream people know who Will Ospreay was. I know us diehard wrestling fans know who he is. He's one of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler in the world. I don't know if everybody knows who Deonna Purrazzo is. Let's be honest. If they knew, the Impact Wrestling ratings would be through the roof, and they're not. So I know as a diehard wrestling fan, Purrazzo is a huge get for AEW. She's an amazing in-ring performer, incredibly talented, and really does bolster that division. But I don't know if it moves the needle the way arriving free agents in WWE does, like the Jade Cargill arrival, or even something as simple as Brian Pillman Jr. So, the way these things are handled by the two different organizations, very different clearly. And we'll have to wait and see what her overall effect on the product is, but it has to be a positive. Now, on the topic of AEW, I got to say this. After coming out of World's End this past weekend, the show was great top to bottom. Nightingale and Statlander was solid. Killswitch winning the TNT Championship match through the Battle Royal, I thought was a good call, though I wasn't real thrilled with what they did later on with it. Hook over Wheeler Yuta, I thought was kind of a given. Kind of weird seeing the people from the Continental Classic, the Danielson, Castagnoli, Mark Briscoe, Daniel Garcia going against Brody King, Roosh, Jay Lethal, and Jay White. A little weird because some of those people belong together and some of them really don't. But it was a great way to give Daniel Garcia a moment when he picks up the pin. I wish it wasn't over Jay Lethal because that guy has been buried and he's an incredible talent. But still entertaining. Loved Miro defeating Andrade the way he did because he looked strong. Andrade, then the big news was he's finished up with AEW. He's now going to be a free agent. Anticipate that he'll go back to WWE, but we haven't seen that yet, so who knows? I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion, but I do know he wants to do some things with CMLL first. Some people thought he would show up on Raw this week. I don't. I think he may show up on SmackDown tomorrow night because that's where the majority of the LWO is, and he would fill the void, I think, some of the way that is missing because of Rey Mysterio being injured, that I think they've been trying to fill with Dragon Lee, but I don't want to get on the WWE vine too much yet. Tony Storm, the most predictable match of the night, defeating Rio. I don't think anybody expected it different. And then, one of the ones that really got to me was the fact that Keith Lee was not medically cleared, so they put Dustin Rhodes in against Swerve Strickland. I have no problem with Swerve beating Dustin Rhodes. I have no problem with the two of them going in the ring. My problem is it's like a 10-minute match. Swerve Strickland is one of the most organically over people in All Elite Wrestling right now. You want to make him look strong. I would not have him go 10 minutes with Dustin Rhodes. I'd have him go 2 minutes with Dustin Rhodes. So it really puts him over as being incredible. And they do the same thing a couple days later when you get to Dynamite and you see Swerve Strickland going in there with Daniel Garcia, which I loved. Again, the idea of the match, the dance-off with Daniel Garcia and Prince Nana. I love all that stuff. But again, if you want Swerve to be potentially this year's breakout star and new AEW World Champion by year's end, which I think they were on the path to do, stop making his opponents look so good. Dustin Rhodes is 54 years old. He hasn't had a singles match since June. So he shouldn't be going 10 minutes with your hottest young commodity. I think that was a bad idea. Great match, bad idea. Little shocking, the Jericho, Guevara, Sammy, Darby Allin, Sting versus Ricky Starks, Big Bill, Takeshita, and Powerhouse Hobbs match. The amount of boos for Jericho, and listen, I'm not going to get into a big controversial conversation. I know about the rumors that were put out there. I know that there are other people who refuse to accept those because there's been no claims by anybody who's been offended that he's done anything. We have a lot of fans jumping all over that, calling for fire Jericho and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check the dirt sheets. They'll all tell you. But the reality is, right now, with the information we have, there's no real reason to be going down a controversial route. And I was a little surprised that so many fans went that route. Not knocking the fans. You pay your ticket. You have a right to boo, cheer, whatever you'd like to do. I was just surprised. But I think it helped Guevara the way they were booked in this match, and that's a good thing. Julia Hart toppling Abaddon, I thought that was kind of obvious that was going to happen as well. I kind of thought that perhaps we would see some interference from Thunder Rosa that would make it a little more compelling, but not so much. The number one thing I hated of the night, Adam Copeland defeats Christian Cage, and then Christian Cage takes the TNT Championship opportunity from Killswitch or Luchasaurus or whatever you want to call him, and regains the TNT Championship immediately. I get it. If this was the first time he took something from Killswitch, then fine. I'd be okay with that. But this is not. This is the same thing that happened a few months ago. It's been done. I didn't love it. Didn't love it at all. Eddie Kingston toppling Jon Moxley. We all wanted it. It happened. It looked great. It was that moment that he needed, and it was wonderful to see. Congrats to Eddie Kingston. And then the big one, Samoa Joe defeating MJF. I think some people thought that may happen. Many people thought there's no way it would happen with the Devil storyline going on. And then the way it happened, the lifting and dropping of the arm for the submission victory for Samoa Joe becoming the AEW World Champion. I'm okay with Joe as champion. I'm okay with ending MJF's streak. Some people said, is he the right person to have ended it? Whatever. I don't care. I think Samoa Joe should have been world champion a long time ago in WWE. He should have been the guy to beat Brock at one point. But whatever. I digress. I think it was a good decision to put the championship on Joe because he, at this stage of his career, can go all the time. I didn't love the way MJF basically just lost clean. And I get it. He's injured, he's hurt, or whatever excuse you want to use. But that was a little shocking to me. Then to see the reveal that Adam Cole was the devil, I think we all kind of suspected from the beginning it could be him. I think there was a little bit of fervor about other people. It could be once the people saw who was let go from WWE and the timing of things and whatnot. But I think it makes logical sense. So the Undisputed Kingdom, as they would deem themselves on Dynamite, I think is a great idea. I think at this point, MJF, the conversation about him being a free agent in 2024 is ridiculous. I think he's clearly re-signed with the company. He'll take some time off, heal up, come back, and that feud with the Undisputed Kingdom will be a fantastic one. Moving over from AEW to WWE, the word is that they are heavily trying to bring in Camille, the former NWA World Women's Champion, now that she is a free agent after the end of 2023. They want to bring her to NXT. I think it's a great idea. She's a great get and talented young lady and really has done a lot in a very short period of time for a very small promotion. But it'll be curious to see if they are successful in courting her. A lot of that NWA talent, when AEW first kicked off, went to AEW. Now this would be a big get, I think, for WWE and bolster their NXT roster, which then makes it so it's easier to move Cargill to the main roster to start with. I'm not sure how they're feeling about that, especially with how little she's been put on television since her initial arrival. Other big news coming out today from WWE. In 2024, they're going to do another premium live event outside the United States in Toronto, Canada, at the Scotiabank Arena. They're going to hold Money in the Bank. That's another PLE going outside the U.S. It should be interesting to see who fills those slots. I mean, that's 6 months away. We got plenty of time, but it ties into some other stuff that we were thinking about. Because if you are fans of Busted Open Radio, which I am a huge fan of, I think Dave LaGreca puts on one of the best programs on all of SiriusXM satellite radio. They talked about what the big buzz in WWE is. The return of The Rock on Monday Night Raw, and his line at the end of his conversation after he beats up Jinder Mahal, which was, I thought, went too long, but still entertaining. And then he drops that line about where he should sit when he goes to dinner, finishing with at the head of the table, clearly referencing Roman Reigns. Word got out over the weekend that the people in Australia really want the Elimination Chamber to feature The Rock. And then when you're listening to Busted Open, they had a great conversation about how you could book the next couple months. And I think that Bully Ray had the best idea, and one that I think any diehard fan thinks is probably the best scenario, in that if you have The Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber, right now just over 30,000 tickets are sold in the 62,000 seat arena. It's not sold out, it's only half sold. You put The Rock and Roman on that card, that place sells out. Let's be honest, that's like turning one show into two based on current ticket sales. So I think that is a no-brainer. In addition, it decomplicates WrestleMania, and it provides an avenue for The Rock at WrestleMania so you can still get the pop from The Rock being there. What the plan was is they talked about at the Royal Rumble having CM Punk win the Rumble and choosing to face Seth Rollins for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, then allowing Cody to win the Elimination Chamber down in Australia, which would be huge, and give him the opportunity to challenge the other champion, being Roman Reigns. That's how Cody gets his opportunity to finish the story. But before we get to WrestleMania, at Elimination Chamber, have The Rock and Roman to be the head of the table, have Roman defeat The Rock through some shenanigans based on what has happened in every match that Roman Reigns has had in recent memory, with the exception of the LA Knight match in Saudi Arabia. Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa interfering, costing The Rock the match. And the reason they would do that, they would also have them do the same thing. Jimmy Uso and Solo cost Randy Orton his championship opportunity at the Royal Rumble that we expect is going to take place. And that way you get a pattern of the interference costing people the championship like they've had most of his run, leading to WrestleMania, where at WrestleMania you either would have The Rock take on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso with a tag team partner, which would either be John Cena, because there's the built-in story there with The Rock and Cena. There's another story built in there with Solo and Cena. And then obviously the new one, which would be Jimmy Uso and Solo with The Rock. I think it could be a great get. Or the other option was The Rock teaming up with Jey Uso to take on Solo and Jimmy Uso. I'm okay with either one of those options. I really, really am. And then that would free up free up Roman to have his match with Cody as the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins and CM Punk main eventing night 1. I love every single thing about that scenario. I think that would be fantastic. It covers all the bases. We still get Rock and Roman. We finally get to see Cody finish his story. And what I thought was the most interesting part of the conversation on Busted Open, they put up a poll and asked the fans, and a higher percentage of people want to see Cody versus Roman and Cody win at Mania than The Rock. And that's fabulous to me. That tells me, and Dave LaGreca made the best argument. He said, if you think about it, WWE, Bully Ray was talking about how WWE represents Roman as the reason for their ratings boost and everything that's been going on great for WWE in recent memory. And I get it. But Roman missed, I think they said 5 premium live events this year. Cody was at all of them. They talked about how many weeks that Roman is not on television, and Cody is always on television. What is really drawing these records crowds? Is it really Roman Reigns, who's never even there? Or is it Cody Rhodes? Is it Seth Rollins? Is it Gunther? Is it all this other peripheral stuff, the LA Knights? Is it all that's been driving this year and not Roman Reigns? Are people sick and tired of Roman Reigns and his reign as WWE champion? And I think one of the most important things that they touched on after Mania was somebody had mentioned whether or not you could do Cody and Roman at SummerSlam if you do Roman versus The Rock at Mania. And Bully Ray brought up, then if you do that, then Roman would be literally days, weeks, maybe even a month away from breaking Hogan's record for second or third, whatever place, depending on which championship reign list you look at. If you look at the Bob Backlund one being 6 years, then Hogan would fall to third. If you look at it as 2 separate reigns for Backlund with the dusty finish over in Japan, then you would look at Hogan being number 2 and Roman Reigns jumping into the number 2 spot. No one's ever going to beat the spot of Bruno Sammartino. So what do you do there? So I don't think there's any chance, if you're that close to beating Hogan, that you let Cody win at SummerSlam. So then what is it? What do you go to the Survivor Series? I think Tommy Dreamer mentioned Survivor Series. At that point, people are done. They're off the wagon. You lost all the momentum, and nobody's going to buy into Cody the way they should. Roman Reigns should drop that championship to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. And if you need be, have interference from The Rock if you have to have interference from anybody. Not with Cody or Reigns. This is me interjecting here. Do not have The Rock touch Roman Reigns at Mania. Have Solo and Jimmy come out like they always do, and have The Rock and whoever his tag team partner would be come out and fight them off so that Cody gets the clean win and the push from having that win over Roman Reigns, who's been essentially unbeatable. The only concern I have with that is that Roman has won so many of these matches from the outside interference, it almost makes it seem like if there wasn't interference, he'd have lost it a long time ago. And maybe that denigrates his reign just a little bit. I don't know. That's for the fans to decide. Going to move on to our last topic of the night. And this is something I love talking about because we don't talk about it enough here in the United States. That New Japan Pro Wrestling, WrestleKingdom 18. What an incredible show, top to bottom. I can't touch on every match because I'm running low on time, but let's go here first. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeats Zack Sabre Jr. for the NJPW World Television Championship at WrestleKingdom. Tanahashi recently named the new president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I was curious to see how he'd book himself But he did get the pin and win the television championship. First reign for him. I love it. I think it's wonderful to see the ace of New Japan get this opportunity to win a championship he hasn't held before, and really in a marquee match with an incredible young talent in Zack Sabre Jr., who is as talented as anybody in the business these days. The Guerrillas of Destiny were facing off again. Bushiman, the Guerrillas of Destiny, walking in as the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Champions, and Bushiman coming in as the New Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions of the world, and unifying those championships with the Guerrillas of Destiny, which are an incredible tag team. If you don't follow New Japan, Hukilo and El Fantasmo, fantastic as a tag team. And this was a great culmination. They had lost in the finals of the World Tag League to Bushiman, who won that tournament. So this was great booking. I thought it was a great opportunity. Then when you go on, the last three items I got to talk about would be the arrival of Nick Nemeth at New Japan's WrestleKingdom. Right after the match, where David Finlay wins the IWGP Global Championship, the new championship, by defeating Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay in a triple threat. He's going up the aisle, and seated at ringside, brought out earlier with his brother Ryan Nemeth, is Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. And there's a pushing match that goes on, and there's pictures online of Nick Nemeth holding up that IWGP Global Championship, and I love it. I think it's great and good for him going to New Japan and not just jumping right to AEW or anywhere else. I love the opportunity to see him wrestle in Japan, and I can't wait to see this feud. Next, Kazuchika Okada defeating Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Kingdom 18. I think many people expected it, especially after Bryan won the first match, despite having a broken arm. I think this sets them up for Forbidden Door, where they will have their rubber match. I don't know who will come out on top of that match. Maybe Danielson, because it's last year wrestling. Maybe he loses because he wants to put somebody over before he stops wrestling full-time. I don't know, but this match, another Mac classic. These two are some of the best that have ever walked into the squared circle, and I loved it. And the main event, Tetsuya Naito, who, if you are not a diehard fan of his, I question your fandom in sports entertainment and wrestling. Check out Naito's matches going back several years. He defeats Sonata to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. It was a beautiful match, a beautiful card top to bottom, and I'm just so impressed with everything that New Japan Pro Wrestling did this year. They really outdid everything they've done previously, and I was just so impressed with the entire card top to bottom. Congrats to them for putting on such a great show, despite the conversation often focusing on WWE and All Elite Wrestling. New Japan knows how to put on a great show. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing any music or sound effects we use. Today's show sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy. This game called Sketchy People. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com, searching for and picking up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.